as your coach is working on positioning things on the infield, is he going to work a little more on fielding the bunt?
I mean, it that are you talking about Andrew's game?
Uh, yeah.
That
I
was a
mean,
shit show.
that circumstance you can't really do anything about. Like you can't expect 2 to 3 guys to come up and bunt back to back. Like that I have nothing to say about that because I don't know. Like that just frustrated all of us in the dugout because it's good play on their part from the game side of it, but also from like the player side of it. You're like, swing the bat, don't be a soft ass. Like, come on.
You're
Like
talking about
you got guys in scoring position already, but yet you're going to drop another bunt down. Like,
well, if it works, why wouldn't you?
and that's what I say from the game's like standpoint of it. It was a great idea, but from the player standpoint, we're like, what the hell?
It's attention to detail.
Are we talking about Espinal's bunt the other day?
No. With Andrew Abbott when he was pitching, and I think it was either a first pitch walk or a single, and then they went bunt to get bases loaded.
Hey, listen, you can't say soft ass in regards to bunting when you got someone like Friedl that's going to get 15 bunt hits a year because he's actually good at it and he practices it.
That's why I said from the game standpoint, it makes sense. But from the player standpoint, because when we do it and we're safe, it's great. We're fired up and excited because it was the right play. But when it happens against us, especially 2 times back-to-back ABs, you're like, all right, somebody swing the damn bat.
Yeah, but like I'll tell you this though, like the opposite happens more than what we're talking about. We're talking about the exception of the rule. I personally witnessed the Pirates and the Marlins opening day in Miami. The Marlins had runners on the corners with 1 out, and it was a tie ball game, bottom of the 9th. That's a situation all day, every day you bunt. You put that bunt down to get that run in, right? But they didn't. And they ended up going into extra innings. They ended up losing the game. Like, let's talk about bunting for a second. Why are teams so allergic to bunt in general? Like, I've noticed that as a trend.
That's just because it's kind of like it's honestly gone out of style until like last year.
Launch angle.
I honestly think Friedl last year getting however many hits he had as a bunt last year, it kind of opened eyes to teams again about it because everybody got so adapted to, I want to hit the long ball. I want to hit the ball 110 somewhere. Like, and just got away, especially the fast guys. Like you maybe saw, God, who was it? I'm trying to think of right now. Hamilton, you saw him, Billy Hamilton. I think he was probably the only person that would bunt, and that's just because he would utilize the speed. And not a lot of people, either they weren't comfortable bunting because they weren't good at it, or they just weren't quick enough to get down the line to be safe.
I think that was the only time Billy got on was when he bunted.
So, hey, side note, isn't TJ from Vegas?
He lives in Vegas.
He does in the offseason.
Berman, you can hang out with him. Well,
he played in Nevada, didn't he?
For him.
Yeah, he played in Reno, right? But I just bring that up as an aside. It's where I live now. But at any rate, so going back to it though, right? I want to touch on something John said earlier, right? Like, so one thing about John on the phone here, John preaches fundamentals, and I'm not just talking about with sports. You ever work with this guy? It's all about fundamentals, man. I feel like I'm with my AAU coach or one of my little league coaches when I'm working with John, right? But he's always consistent, right?
So let me add a description to that. If we were a car battery, you and I would be the red wire, and he would be the black wire.
Yes, right. always, right.
I resemble that remark.
It's a good one, but I guess the point is why did bunting ever go out of style? Like it just drives me nuts because, like in the major leagues, out of style, but right is right, and the way you should do things is the way you should do things fundamentally speaking. You got all these kids watching. All these kids need to learn how to play this game, but yet, I guess another example of this is like guys just not running through first base, right? Like that's like the classic example of like pros kind of dogging it because they're pros, like quote unquote. But to me, it drives me nuts when I see a team that should be laying a bunt down and they just don't. I guess that's just me on my side.
I mean, it's really hard to say. If I was a hitter, I could probably give you a better answer on it. But it's just one of those things. I mean, you just rarely saw it unless it was like 100% needed in like a do or die situation with a close game. And I mean, I feel like you're going to start seeing it more and more because, I mean, there's a lot of fast young prospects that are coming up. And people are starting to realize like they're getting played back on a lot more. The shift's a little bit heavier to where they can drop that bunt down the third base line because the third baseman's shifted into the 6 hole, and just things like that. I mean, it's honestly hard to give an exact reason, but I mean, I think you're going to start seeing it more and more in the game.
But in regards to the bunt, with someone that throws like you do, Graham, and the movement you have on your pitches, how hard does that make it to actually lay that bunt down, do you think? And you're probably going to say,
bunt. It's a free strike. You're not going to be able to, if you're going to put the bat on it, you're either going to hit the top of the ball and pop and hit it straight down and it's going to be foul, or you're going to hit the bottom of it and pop it up. If you can center up one of my fastballs, my cutter or my sinker, and get it on the ground, good for you. I'll give it to you all day. But you better hope it's not right at me to where I can make a play on it. It's a free out, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
As you're ramping up pitching, and I would say the antithesis or the argument of why bunting's not existing, I think pitching's gotten extremely more challenging for hitters over the past, half decade even or so, right? Just with technology that exists for arm strength, curveball velocity is significantly up, breaking ball velocity in general is significantly up, partially why we're seeing a lot of guys blowing their elbows out more and more these days. But do you think the pitching has a lot to do with that as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to imagine, like, when guys were bunting a lot and stuff, I mean, it was back when, like, Greg Maddux was pitching and you had guys that had a lot of movement, but it was coming in at 88, 90. Now you got guys that are pitching that are throwing 100 and it's moving, it's sinking, it's cutting, it's rising, it's doing all types of stuff. So I mean, I felt like when the velo started to tick up, like maybe guys got scared from wanting to turn around because they're afraid they were going to sit there and turn around and try to bunt and take it off the face. I mean, yeah. It's just like I said earlier, it's just hard for me to make a comment on like the hitting side of things when I'm not a hitter.
Controversial question. When you see someone squaring up the bunt, how you throwing the ball at them?
I'm throwing it right at their fist.
Inside, maybe tighten inside.
That hand that's holding that barrel to aim wherever they want that thing to go, it's going right towards it.
Yeah.